Welcome, everybody, to Brian's Vinyl Records, the podcast about all things vinyl, music, and other things. I'm your host, Brian Thomas, and today we're going to talk about Record Store Day and why Record Store Day is important and what it does for the small business. So Record Store Day is a topic that is kind of split in the vinyl community between people who really enjoy Record Store Day and people who loathe Record Store Day. A lot of people's complaints are that the quote-unquote hipsters have taken it over and pretend to be vinyl fanatics for a whole day, which to me is kind of a ridiculous argument. It doesn't matter who is buying vinyl as long as people are buying vinyl. The argument for is that it's a great time and it supports your local record stores. Now, the nice part about Record Store Day is that it doesn't go and belong to the big box superstores. You won't find Record Store Day items at Amazon on Record Store Day. You may see them there later when there are third-party sellers who are getting rid of their extra inventory that way, or of course the typical people who go and buy the very rare albums and then try and sell them for a higher price. You may see some of that. You may just see some of them where the company who created the records have extra quantities of the albums that didn't sell, and then they will then allow an Amazon or a Best Buy or a big box store to then purchase those to sell in their stores. But as far as Record Store Day goes, the titles that come on a Record Store Day are for the local indie record stores. So that's the cool part about Record Store Day, is that it's there to support all those little mom and pop shops, all those smaller businesses who maybe have a branch or two, don't have a worldwide distribution set up, that kind of stuff. It's a great way for you as a music fan to get out and enjoy the day with other music fans and support those local big non-big box stores. That's the big deal. So a little history on Record Store Day. This began in 2008, and it was an idea that was hatched so that they could kind of take advantage of what was coming out. Like there were other big time days that were going on, like a free comic book day was a big thing going on. And they decided that it would be kind of fun to do this with vinyl. Now, in 2007 is when the idea was hatched. 2008, I believe, was the first year that they did a Record Store Day. Records were not exactly big deals at that time. The vinyl resurgence, as you want to call it, hadn't quite happened just yet. It would take a couple more years for that to happen. So in order to get people interested, the gentleman who came up with the idea had decided that they needed to pitch something to artists to try and get them involved in the Record Store Day concept, coming up with something unique for people to go and visit these record stores. And now here we are 11 years later, and it's a big deal. Record Store Day happens twice a year, which is kind of funny. You call it Record Store Day, but they coincide the November Record Store Day with Black Friday. The main Record Store Day happens in April every year. And it's really exciting time if you're a record fan, if you're a collector and all that, right? Some people may argue that it's a big, colossal commercial grab and waste of money to do these kind of things, because a lot of the times when you go there to buy an album that is Record Store Day exclusive, there'll be a version of it that comes out later that's not quite the same. Case in point, this last Black Friday Record Store Day, Type O Negative's Bloody Kisses album, which is one of my favorite albums of all time, came out on vinyl for the first time since its original release. Before that, the only way you could get a copy of Bloody Kisses on vinyl was to go out and buy it from someone who had a copy or find a bootleg. Either one of those was going to cost you a lot of money. So Runout Groove decided to press a new press of this album, Bloody Kisses of Type O Negative, and it was exclusive in America on this Record Store Day at a green vinyl 3-disc package. Really exciting. I went out and got that one. I was pretty excited about that. About a month from now, they are going to be releasing another version of it, just a 2-disc version of it, but still the album will be available to those who weren't able to get it on Record Store Day. There, of course, will be differences. Like I said, the Record Store Day version was a 3 vinyl package, and it came in a green, cool color, and it had a couple other things that the package that comes out in May will not have. So you could say, it's cool or it's not cool because you can get all of it later. And you can. In a lot of cases, many of these things you can find leftovers after Record Store Day, or you could find them later when they release it in a different format. But it's still not the same, right? I mean, if I go out and buy the Run Out Groove pressing of Bloody Kisses in May, it will not be the same as the Bloody Kisses I got on Record Store Day. I have extra content. I have an extra vinyl disc and other things that aren't included in the one that will come out. So was it worth it to me to go out on Record Store Day to get this copy of Bloody Kisses and pay $44, I think is what they charged for that album? To me, yes, it was, because I was a big fan of that album, and it's cool to have that version of the album. Will the Run Out Groove version that comes out in May be just as good? Yeah, probably for the regular album, but it won't have all the extra pieces that I got in the Record Store Day, and that's fine. So there's arguments to and for that. Yes, a lot of it will come out again in a different way or package or format as it usually does. But the exclusives are fun. And if you're a collector, you might get a little pissed off about Record Store Day because you want to have all of that, all those items in your collection because you're collecting, but don't want to pay the enormous prices. And you can try and run the risk of waiting to see if they become overstocked or anything like that, or try and find someone to get it for you at a cheaper price. But you're left in the dark if you don't go to the Record Store Day. So I get it. It can be a hassle, it can be a pain, and it can be annoying. But it's also can be a lot of fun. It can be a great time if you allow it to be that way. I have attended 3, I think, Record Store Days so far, and every one of them, other than one year when it was really cold outside and I stood in line for over an hour and a half and what I went for wasn't there. Other than that one time, the other 2 times were a great time. I stood in line with people who are record enthusiasts, music enthusiasts, and we just chatted about our favorite bands, what records we were looking for, why we like certain things, our collections, all sorts of stuff. We passed the time just chatting, and it was a great time. And I think that's the part about Record Store Day that I like the most. Sure, I do enjoy the digging through the albums and seeing what's there and deciding which ones I should buy and which ones I should leave behind. But just getting involved with that community, that record store community, the vinyl community at the event and just chatting is a blast. And, this last year I had a great time. I was 7th in line to get the Type O Negative album. I had 7 albums I wanted on my list. I walked out of there with 8 albums in all. I had saved a ton of money to go do this, and I wanted to make it a fun event. And it was. The people I was around were there to have a great time. We talked about all sorts of great things. What got us into certain bands we should check out if we didn't know about them, all sorts of stuff. And it was just a great time. And of course, the other nice thing is a lot of these record stores will do fun things for the people who are waiting in line. Some will serve donuts and coffee to you. Some will have cookies. Some will have giveaways. My local record store will have a DJ playing throughout the day to kind of entertain everybody as you're browsing through the records. They'll have a lot of different deals on used records that they have in the stores, which I think is great. It's, it's an event and it's an all-day type thing that you, I think, as a vinyl enthusiast, should support. And the other big thing here with Record Store Day is that many of these local mom and pop shops live off of the earnings they get from this one or typically 2 days a year. The earnings the profits that they make from people coming in, and let's not lie here, a lot of the Record Store Day stuff that is sold, they're not making a ton of money on that stuff. It's being in the shop, looking through their used items, their other inventory, and purchasing those things. That money that they make from that day or those 2 days usually is enough to keep them in business for the next year. And that's important. If we want to see vinyl around for the next, 10, 20, 30 years, we need to support these local stores. Yes, Walmarts and Targets and Urban Outfitters and Barnes & Nobles and Amazons are out there selling vinyl records. But if we don't support these local shops, less people are going to buy them, and we're going to put these people out of business, and there'll be less records there. The demand will go down. The nice part about having these local shops is if you're just walking around in your city and you happen to buy a music store and walk in and you haven't seen vinyl in a while, like me, that enthralls you. That's how I got hooked on it again. I hadn't bought a vinyl record in probably 15 years. And I just went with a guy from work to check out a record store. I started on the CDs, not thinking anything of the records. But then as I went in there, I started seeing some cool records that I wouldn't mind owning. Don't even matter that I didn't have a turntable at the time. I was enthralled, and I enjoyed flipping through that. And that's the heart of Record Store Day. Getting in there, getting people who maybe don't normally go to the record stores into the stores, looking at albums, excited about music, holding the physical product, buying the physical products, and leaving happy, and probably intending to come back again. I think it's important that we embrace as a vinyl community Record Store Day, whether you want to participate or not. Instead of bashing Record Store Day as a hipster event or a waste of money or a money grab. Yeah, so it is. Big deal. You don't have to purchase the albums. Go there, make the event something that is good for you. Take advantage of the record store sales. My local record store has 20% off all used items on Record Store Days usually. 20%. That's a nice chunk of change that you could save, and you could pick up the albums that you've been eyeing for a long time. So instead of bashing Record Store Day like a lot of people like to do, let's embrace Record Store Day. Let's have fun on Record Store Day. Let's get out there and just enjoy the vinyl community, smell the vinyl in the air. Just make it about music. Make it about fun. That's my opinion. You may have another, and that's fine. You don't have to participate in Record Store Day. If you really hate it that much, then don't do it. But for those shops that you like to shop at, this is a big day and a big deal for them. Whether hipsters show up or people you don't want to be around show up, big deal. They're in there and they're buying records. They're keeping your record stores open. They're helping spread the vinyl love around to other people. I think that's important here. Let's get people back into vinyl records. Let's get people enjoying the music again, the physical product, hearing music for the first time for some of these people as it was meant to be, not the streaming that we've gotten into these last 10 years. Let them hear the music as it was intended. Let them hear the bass, the trebles, the instruments that get hidden when it's compressed so much. Let's hear it. Let's get it out there. Record Store Day is the perfect time to do that. So with that, I'm looking forward to Record Store Day this year. There are a lot of times when I've looked at the Record Store Day lists and there's nothing I really care about, nothing I really want, and that's okay too. I still end up going and just enjoying the day. And sometimes even looking at the lists, I think there's nothing here I want. And once I get in there and start thumbing through the boxes of albums that are there, I actually find something and think, well, this is kind of cool. I might actually want this. And I end up walking out with something anyway. The day that I went where they didn't have what I came for, I ended up walking out with 2 albums that day. 2 albums I didn't think I was going to buy or wanted. And I saw them there as I was looking through all the boxes and decided, maybe I do want that. And I ended up buying them. So, hey, even when all seems lost, there is still hope to find something that you want. So this year I'm excited. I think my list is set at right now about 10 albums that I'd really like to pick up. A couple other ones that I know friends are looking for that are going to be harder to find that I might try and nab for them just in case. So I've got to look at it this way. One of my local record stores has a 4 LP limit on what you can purchase. Another one has an 8 LP limit on what you can purchase. So I'm going to probably hit that 8 LP limit first to make sure that I get the ones I want for sure. And then I'll probably go to the other one to see what they have left and hopefully grab something there that I didn't get at this one. I'm hoping that I can whittle my list down to just 6 or so albums instead of all 8 slots or more, because that's going to get expensive. And I think a lot of it will have to do with what the prices are. Now, that's the one thing Record Store Day I would like them to do, is kind of post the suggested price, because a lot of the places will go with the suggested price. And that way you can kind of see where you're at, because I set myself a limit on Record Store Day, no more than $200 to be spent. I prefer to spend a hell of a lot less than that, but if I have to, I will go up to $200 on albums on Record Store Day. Last year, I walked out with used records and the 7 albums that I wanted. I walked out of there at about $170. I was quite happy with that. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'd love if they post the prices and allowed us to kind of gauge what kind of money we have to set aside for this day. Unfortunately, they don't do that yet, but that'll be a deciding factor as well when I get in there and actually see how much an album costs. If I don't think it's worth, $30 for a specific album, I'm not going to buy it at $30, and I'll just not have it in my collection, because there are only a handful of albums that I will pay a certain amount of money for, and they have to be a real big need or want for me to do that. So that'll play a big factor in what I walk out with this year. But I am excited. Like I said, I have a list set up. I know what I'm going in looking at and looking for. And like I said, I think I'm at 9 or 10 titles that I need to whittle down to hopefully around 6 or 7. And if I can do that, I will walk away pretty happy with my Record Store Day at that point. If you want to see the list is available at recordstoreday.com. I highly recommend just going out and taking a peek at it. There are, I believe, 14 pages of titles. So there's a lot to look at there and a lot of different artists and albums to be kind of looking for. So that's going to do it for Record Store Day for me. I just want to reiterate that it is a very important day in record industry and for your local record stores. Whether you want to pay the enormous price or not, just know that what we do on that day keeps your favorite local record stores in business a lot of times. Not always. There are some that are very sustainable on their own. But in many cases, this day or 2 days a year makes or breaks them as far as being able to stay in business and out of debts. And so to me, that's more important than not wanting to be around people who are snobby or not wanting to pay enormous prices on vinyl that you can get probably another 6 months later for a less price. So that's what I got to say about that. I hope you are like me and are going to take advantage of Record Store Day this April. This year's Record Store Day falls on April 13th of 2019. I'm excited. I have it circled. I am planning to be in line by about 7 a.m. when my record store will open at about 9 o'clock in the morning to take advantage, hopefully get a good spot, and be able to get all the albums that I came for. Thank you for listening to this episode of Brian's Vinyl Records. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you do, please leave us a review on your podcatcher. 5 stars helps us be found by other record fans who are looking for a podcast. If you like us, please leave a review. Also, follow me on social media. I'm at Brian's Vinyl Records on Instagram and Facebook. I'm at Brian's Vinyl Rec, R-E-C, on Twitter. And we also are on YouTube, Brian's Vinyl Records on YouTube. You can find us there. We post our podcasts there, and I do little video blogs and reviews. I also have a website, www.briansvinylrecords.com, which has a link to my blog, which I post on usually every week. I post a blog. Unless I'm doing a podcast, then it'll be the week after the podcast is released, so I don't submerge one or the other with the promotion. So yes, please follow my blog. Please follow me on the social media. And if there's any topics that you're interested in, please send me an email, briansvinylrecords@gmail.com. I'm always interested to hear what you want to hear me talk about or you're interested in as well. Also, send me an email with your thoughts on Record Store Day, or hit me up on the social medias. I would like to know your thoughts on Record Store Day. I know there's a lot of people in my vinyl communities who absolutely hate Record Store Day. That's their prerogative. I have no problem with that. I just try to implore them to see it the other way, as a way to support your local record store. Don't go there for the new stuff. Go there for some used stuff. Buy something from the store. Make them some cash. I think that's the important thing. So it's been a wonderful topic. I hope you've enjoyed the show. And until next time, keep spinning, my friends.